You're tuned in to Inside Lowell. Inside Lowell podcast brought to you in part by Washington Savings Bank, serving the greater Lowell community for over 130 years. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. Unicare, offering a variety of plans for people insured under the GIC. At Unicare, your health is their top priority. Reverie 73, Lowell's #1 cannabis shop. Elevate your cannabis experience at Reverie 73. Hafner's, heating and cooling homes and businesses for nearly a century. Become a part of the Hafner's family. It kicks. Boston North Company, offering a wide variety of business solutions to help restaurant and retail clients save money. Boston North. And by Mahoney Oil Company, providing warmth and protection to families in Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. That's Mahoney Oil. And now, time for another Inside Lowell podcast. Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Inside Lowell podcast, but not just any Inside Lowell podcast. It is the original Inside Lowell podcast crew, the Pod Squad, back in studio for our October 2023 show. Let's bring him on in. You probably know the faces, the voices, and the attitudes by now. Let's go left to right on our TV computer screens. Jack Mitchell from the Lowell Live Feed Forum, blogger extraordinaire. Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, the hyphen. In the middle chair, a rose between two thorns. And of course, Mike Bacigalupo, hanging out there to the right of your screen, all pumped up, all ready to go. We're exactly 2 weeks away from election day here in the city of Lowell. We're the evening before early voting, early in-person voting starts in Lowell.
What, tomorrow?
Yeah, it starts tomorrow. Yeah, you can go vote at City Hall.
25th.
Yeah, just don't put your vote in the
mail?
ballot box because somebody tried to jimmy it open the other day. And our friend Mike Colley from Lowell Lock and Key saved the day.
Really?
He showed up at Lowell City Hall.
Why, did somebody put cigarette butts in it? Was somebody looking for butts in it?
No, I've heard horror stories about what's happened in some cities and towns with those drop boxes. People pour things in there. And
Oh, really?
the ballots.
Wait, where is it?
It was
City
right
Hall,
outside
right?
City Hall.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a good
Wait,
idea.
so Lowell Lock and Key came in like...
Lowell Lock and Key came, they tried to jimmy it open and couldn't get into it, so the ballots were all secured,
Sure.
but Lowell Lock and Key was able to kind of repair it, replace it, so big shout out to one of our Inside Lowell sponsors.
I just used them last week.
He's phenomenal, isn't he?
The best.
Did you get Mike himself, or did he send...
No, I got John.
Oh, John, okay, yeah.
John.
I wonder what the weirdest thing somebody has put in one of those boxes has been.
He's got some great stories. He can't tell
Oh, I
them.
bet.
But he's like, the first time I met him, he started telling me how the state police calls on him to bust open like gang members and drug lords.
No, but like in the voting, voting thing.
Oh, the voting thing.
I bet you could fit a mouse in there.
Ooh.
And it'd be a skinny mouse.
No, you just feed it every day. You come by and feed it.
I think they empty it daily.
It cheats up all the.
That's disgusting. Just putting cheese in the box. So you're just putting cheese in the box. It's not
Yeah.
like a mouse.
We're already sidetracked 2 minutes into the podcast. Before we get to the serious stuff, and we got some serious stuff, some fun stuff, we want to do our public service announcement because we always like say we're going to save this to the end, and then we forget poor Mikaela.
I appreciate
But
that.
the hyphen has a big summit coming up. You're climbing the Mount Everest of plastic bottles.
It's the.
What are you doing?
That was funny.
Thank
It's not my. It's the Lowell Sustainability Council Summit. It is Saturday, November 4th. We're really excited. It's going to be a good event, and it's election season, so there's going to be like a panel of candidates talking about sustainability, hopefully. And it's Saturday, November 4th from 10 to 2 at LTC. And it's going to be awesome. We're going to have food and coffee and lunch and lots of good talks.
Does everybody have to walk or ride their bike there, or are you allowed to drive your car?
You are allowed to drive a
Sustainability
car.
Styrofoam
you can
cup.
get there however get there however you want, but just get there. Just get there. I want to see you guys there if you can make it. That
Are
would
they
be
handing out
awesome.
plastic water bottles like we do on
No, we
our
have
podcasts?
So we're either going to do compostable cups or we're going to do recycled cups from like previous events that we're just recycling.
Recycle cups?
No. I mean,
Can you throw in the ones that have the lipstick?
Why don't I
sorry.
put somebody's teeth box?
I'm sorry, no. Sorry. I mean recycled extras.
Oh,
Not unused recycled. So we're kind of, we're not wasting anything. We're not throwing anything away.
got
But they
you.
have not been used.
If
They
it's
haven't-
cold out, will they turn the heat on? Or if it's warm, will they put the AC on?
Yes.
They will?
We want everyone to be comfortable
Okay.
so that we can talk about today. But hopefully that's a good. I wonder how energy efficient LTC is. We should look at that.
Run them through the test.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be enough people there that the
Just
energy,
already discussed
hopefully
it
the
with me.
energy from the people there and the warmth from all the people in there, we won't even need the heat because there's gonna be so much excitement and invigoration.
I can see it
There
in
you
your
go.
face. So Saturday, November 4th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yeah.
at Lowell Telecommunications, and there will be candidates there.
Yeah.
Love it.
And anyone that wants to come, you can RSVP on the Lowell Conservation Trust website. Just Google Lowell Sustainability Summit, and it will come up, and you can RSVP. We really want to get a good head count for food, so
Can you drop in, drop out, or you have to be there all day?
you don't have to be there the whole time. Of course, it'd be nice to be there as long as you can, but please, it's a Saturday in November, and hopefully it's a nice, not rainy weekend for once. So give us as much time as you can. We just want to see people.
Love it. Are you guys doing endorsements, by the way? Is the Sustainability Council going to endorse people?
I don't think we can we're a city official. We're a
Yes,
city.
that's true. But
Yeah.
but your little affiliate, your fund groups there, what is it? Mass
350.org, I'm sure can.
Are they going to do endorsements? Will it be as popular as Solidarity Lowell's?
I can't say. I'm not positive. I should know more about that, but I'm not sure. You know what? It's going to be great to hear from candidates their ideas of how to move Lowell forward with sustainability and energy efficiency and all that good stuff. So it's a really good opportunity for us to hear more about things and talk about them.
All right, Jack, you want to make a comment, or you just sit out the?
I'm just happy that
sustainability?
Move Lowell Forward is caught on in the vernacular. I didn't invent
You were
that
the
one.
original Move Lowell
Wait, were you
Forward
the
guy, right?
original?
Move Lowell Forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Jack and Lynn Lupian and Mimi Parsegian, yeah.
Kim Scott,
They formed a pack. Yeah, that's right. Kim.
Cliff Krieger,
Yes.
right? There's several others. Paul Sweeney.
Whatever happened to that group?
So we were a 501(c) and not a PAC. But then, I guess we thought it was best to become a PAC so that we could endorse candidates. And then Jerry Nutter tore us a new asshole.
Please tell us more.
Tell us what you want.
I don't know. That's pretty much it.
When was this? What year was
This was
this?
back in like
Over what?
2012.
Wait, how?
What did you
There's
guys
more
do?
to the story.
Well, so we started. Joe Smith was involved. The name.
Is that his real name?
Right? Joe Smith. That's
Yeah.
his
Oh, yeah.
real name, yeah, from the Highlands, right? So very, very well thought.
Good dude.
Thinking dude.
Great
good
numbers, dude. If
Very
you ever want to
smart.
look at like a budget,
Yeah.
especially a municipal budget, Joe's like the non-municipal budget guy to look at it with.
So Lynn Lupian's husband or partner, I don't know how they describe themselves, Chris, and then I think there was a lot of pains to put a questionnaire together and how to adjudicate it fairly, right? And then so we did all of that, but we became a PAC, and no matter how painfully we went through the process and carefully, we were accused of like taking sides, and Jerry very skillfully did tear us a new asshole.
Wait, isn't a PAC allowed to take sides?
Yes,
I
but we
think that's
changed
the
our chart.
point.
Kind of like we tried. You know how we bust on Lowell votes for like they used to be
Losing their
nonpartisan?
way.
Right.
Yeah, we did that, and so we lost our way. Although I still stand by it because I know the process, but outsiders don't know the process.
Yeah, but nobody's neutral, so you're being more transparent by being a PAC.
So it's interesting. So like I have my own personal opinions, right? But I also can, I think, work for fairness. And I have run into problems with progressives or even just people from the Democratic Party where I'm like, I will outreach to voters regardless of their sort of political persuasion. I think in local elections, it's not partisan, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so I don't just work to enliven Democratic voters.
So were they an outreach group? Was that what the?
So we did do that, yes. We did knock on doors. We did drop lit in the first year or so, and then because not every year is an election year, but then we decided, we wanted to take it to the next level, and we were Democratic operatives mostly. All right, Lynn
You're spreading information. You're giving people information.
but I can do it. I personally, whatever. I don't care if you believe me or not. I can still be fair.
Yeah,
Right? But like one of the reasons why people said, why don't you vote for it? Because I don't want to listen to your bullshit. All right? Like if you come up with me, I'm going to be like, I think you're stupid. Like we do in text all the time, right?
So what was the issue then? Why was
And
it?
how did Jerry Nutter tear you a new?
He basically just said like we weren't going to be fair. That I don't even really remember. I just remember he was super effective at turning the tide, and so it just became sort of unmanageable for us to keep on going.
Well, because you guys were biased. Obviously, you were the left and Lowell crew. I don't know how Cliff Krieger started hanging out with you guys, but it was basically the kind of the key people were you, Lynn Loopy, and Mimi Parsegian, the left and Lowell crew. You had an obvious agenda. You put it forward, and I think at least by becoming a PAC, you took away. You admitted like, okay, well, we're here to.
Yeah, that seems like a good way to go.
But it wasn't a left agenda. If you consider supporting hacks and cronies and the good old boys or professional city government, all right, like it wasn't a Democrat Republican thing. All your city managers have been Democrats, all right. Most of your city councilors, other than Joe Mendonça, are either closeted Republicans or Democrats.
Well, everybody registers a Democrat,
Right.
regardless of what they really
Closeted Republican.
Closeted Republicans, right? So it wasn't really that much. I think it was just because maybe they knew, we weren't. There was no chance. Rita Mercia wasn't going to get endorsed by.
Right.
But there were people with Reagan on the wall that call themselves Democrats in Lowell. I mean, that's just kind of.
So
I think everybody's registered that way. But you guys,
I think your mistake was to move Lowell forward, imply that move everybody together when in essence you wanted to move them forward, but to the diagonally to the left.
No, I'm saying not. Professional city government was not about being left. It was about not perpetuating the shark's teeth of the delegation always rolling into the city manager's office and packing up their retirement suitcase and then moving off to a better life and just leaving Lowell in the habit of kicking the can down the road. What have we been talking about for the last, I don't know, year and a half now, right? It's about all the ineffective governance that we've had and kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, but you guys were probably the most effective people in destroying professional management in Lowell because Bernie Lynch aligned himself with you guys, invited you to like a media summit, gave you guys like a table, or you guys got like acknowledged at a St. Patrick's Day breakfast, and everybody lost their mind.
Look,
and then I put you guys on the radio too. I put Lynn Lupian and Mimi on the radio as well.
That was
People
about
lost
Kevin
their
Murphy,
minds.
all right, had assessed that Bernie had pulled the city out of the shitter, and that there was enough meat on the bones that he could come in, pat his retirement, and look like a hero. The city financial situation was a terrible mess. That whole John Cox thing, that's what it was. All right. Bernie came in, fixed it, put him on an upward track, rebuilt reserves and all that shit. And then Kevin Murphy was like, go get him, Rodney. And Rodney was just like, bam, 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 endlessly, ceaselessly, ragging and ragging and ragging, right? And then the tide turned. All right.
definitely should
He
have.
said nice things about Rodney Elliott in the podcast we recorded right before this one, by the way.
He's been a great state rep for me. He's been really good.
Oh, he's very attentive.
So,
Yeah, he's been a really good job as a state rep for North Somerset.
so
He's the hardest working guy out there. There's no doubt about that.
there's a little political history for you. The Sustainability
Interesting.
Summit and
Move Lowell forward.
Move Lowell Forward. By the way, I want you to pay attention to the sponsors on our
Partners.
screening. You'll notice some of them are also politicians, political candidates. Corey Belanger, of course, has been part of it forever, but we're starting to see a little ramp up. Bobby Tubielli, Sokari Cha. We're going to add a few more in the coming days and final weeks of the campaign.
So do we get checks?
So yeah, you guys will start to get paid. I'll give you larger bottles of water instead of the ones that I...
You know what I want? I want a reusable water bottle next time.
I'll
I'm
just-
in here.
I'll
It
take-
says Inside Lowell on it.
That'll be the next
Or I'll just bring my
track
own.
thing I
You
bring.
know what? Just give me a sticker and I'll put it on my own water bottle.
Ooh, I
That's
like that.
better.
Even cheaper.
I promise.
I'll take my payment in Greek Kisses and
Heinekens?
and Grovers. Yeah.
You got it.
And Grover's?
Yeah.
The Heinekens or the Teddy Grovers.
Yes.
Let's talk about the big news story on Inside Lowell last night, and then this morning, the follow-up to it. The UMass Lowell Inn and Conference Center is a migrant shelter. I put the stories out under my name last night. The first one said, "Stop the buses." This morning, the governor's office reached out, said that's not accurate. So we put out another article titled "Stop the Presses."
Smart.
So now it's time for me to say, can we stop the bullshit? It's October 24th.
Oh, this is a trilogy.
It's October 24th that we're recording this. The woman herself declared a state of emergency in September 8th or 9th, the one being Governor Maura Healey, admitted shortly thereafter she was negotiating with UMass Lowell for the Inn and Conference Center, even though it was a full month after we reported it accurately that they were negotiating for it and looking for any place to house migrants. And yet they still have us believe that it's not decided, the fate of the Inn and Conference Center. I personally think it is, but time will tell. But the big question is, what's the emergency?
Well, all I know is that just like COVID, when the government tells me something, I believe it.
Mikaela, is there an emergency? How much of it when you have like an emergency, when somebody in your family calls you up, says, "Mikaela, you got to come over and help me. It's an emergency," right? Do you wait like 2.5 months to deal with the emergency, or do you go deal with it instantly?
Well, I think when you're talking about something that you need some lead time for, like housing, finding housing for people that are expecting to arrive here, you can declare a state of emergency as much ahead of time as you want to. What is it? This preparation is 90 or something. There's like a saying, like it's good to be prepared.
Yeah, preparation versus perspiration.
No,
That's-
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's good to lay people off as early as possible.
Something preparation prevents piss poor or piss poor
performance.
planning, or prevent piss poor
better
performance.
to be-
Planning prevents business.
There we go.
Wow, that was a good team effort.
Now, so what's the plan? I'm trying to put myself in Governor Healey's shoes here
There's
for a
probably-
minute.
I'm sure-
What's the plan? Is we got to find housing for these people,
Yeah.
right? If only there was a building that the previous tenant vacated at the end of August that had 200 plus separate little compartments where we could house 18 people in an emergency.
Look, I need to.
18 people. It's more than 18 people.
I mean, 800 people. I
800
apologize.
Yeah.
In an emergency. Why aren't there any, if this is really an emergency, why aren't there 800 migrants in that building?
I just want to cleave this, all right? Because I think there's two things that are happening here. One is Teddy wants to talk about the debacle of the decision around the ICC in the behind the room, under the table, cigars filled smoke rooms, right? And then there's the desire for Teddy's like supporting the close the border, build a wall, right? Like, so I think he's got one part of his argument is really just about him trashing Maura Healey and the idea of dealing with these immigrants, right? Because he just wants to say no more, period, right? And he'll come up with all sorts of stuff.
I'm not even going to say that though. I'm going to play.
I want to just talk about the ICC. What happened with the ICC?
Where's the emergency?
Well, okay. Where is the emergency? Well, the city council declared that homelessness was an emergency, right? Didn't we? Racism is a public health crisis. Racism is, they didn't declare an emergency. They said homelessness was a public health crisis, right?
Yes.
All right. So
and racism.
we make these big proclamations to try to motivate people, and then nothing really becomes of it. And so I do think that there are issues with immigration. And we're overloaded, we're starting to see that we're overloaded. But I think that's a separate issue than the shenanigans of transactional, under-the-table politics that is happening around the ICC. So in a way, the immigration thing and the refugees are separate. It's how does Marty offload that building so he can get to the shit he is focused on without looking like he wants to come out smelling like a rose, but he wants to unload that ICC. All right. And this emergency was just a convenient opportunity. What was it Rahm Emanuel said?
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Here's Marty.
Well, I don't know why if they were gonna like write all these letters and stuff, they should have just had Brian Martin write one letter. That would have scared the shit out of everybody.
He actually did. I think Brian Martin signed on to a letter.
He was on the Gallagher letter?
Wasn't it Brian Martin and
Gallagher, Nancy Donahue.
Mike the usual.
He would have been though, right?
Yeah. I mean, had they done, if you bring the migrants in, it would be the destruction of single family.
Oh yeah, single family hotel zoning.
People would have been out in the streets protesting. But
single hotel zoning.
So I know your inclination is to push back against me and defend the governor, but I actually think we're speaking the same language here. Okay.
So what did the governor say when you called him for a quote originally?
In full disclosure, I had the story. I had it confirmed solidly. I will still stand by it. I didn't reach out to them for a quote. I was going to the next morning, and they reached out to me because I know they're not going to give me anything. Because they haven't given anybody anything. They give the same stock response. We're in negotiations, and we'll give you an update when it comes. Well, it's two and a half months later that you haven't provided any updates. I think people need to know.
You're
the governor.
So if I'm the governor, my information might not be. It might have been coming up the pipeline federally, and I might not. It might have been an emergency from my sources, and then maybe not. I mean, I don't know. So there might be some things that they can't divulge because bureaucracy. Which we all
plausible theory, except just last week she went in front of the cameras on her YouTube channel. Do you know the governor has a YouTube channel?
I love that.
I'd love to meld it with Inside Lowell. It'd be great. We could broadcast the governor's press conference.
Is it as good as Tom Golden's when he was under the...
It's much better than Under the Golden Dome or whatever.
Wait, what? Is that a YouTube?
Because he had a podcast.
You don't remember that?
No.
Oh, we'll have to dig it up.
But just last week, she said, we're reaching capacity at the end of the month. That's it. After October, we don't know what we're going to do with these people.
Yeah.
So, again, you've got 200-something rooms. It's an easy answer. Why can't you just say, we're taking that?
She can,
and she has it. That's my point.
Absolutely,
she's not trying to take the Radisson Hotel in Chelmsford, which is privately owned, or the Days Inn or whatever. This is called the UMass Lowell Inn and Conference Center, owned by the UMass Building Authority, which is funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. If she wants that building, she can take it.
The big energy is to take the building and say, fuck you, Lowell, learn to like it. But she has to run for re-election. And Lowell...
3 years from now.
Yeah, that's not.
I don't know.
By that point, she'll have done a million other things, good or bad.
I don't know if she'll get back on Gallagher's deck. Maybe Andrea, whatever, Campbell will get there. But I don't know if there'll be a Healy soiree if she jams it down. Jams it down our throats.
So does Lowell have that much clout in a state? I've heard this.
We're the fifth largest municipality in the Commonwealth. All right. There's a reason why Scott Brown wanted to win in Lowell. There's a reason why Elizabeth Warren wanted. There's a lot of votes here, and if Healy goes too hard at Lowell, there's consequences to that.
So basically, you're confirming what we know about all politicians, that the next election is the most important thing.
I have a hard time thinking it's an election.
It's a balancing act.
If the election isn't for a long time, there's a lot that can happen between now and
then. Yeah, she's got a lot more cushion than the city councilors who flipped on the ADUs had. They had 3 weeks.
Lowell doesn't hold grudges. All right,
oh no, we absolutely, everyone holds a grudge, but there's a lot more grudges that can happen. Like time heals all wounds too, so there's a lot more grudges that can happen in 3 years.
I think it's more than that. I don't know exactly what, but
I want to know what you think, Teddy, because your voice when you're saying these things, like your question voice of like, why?
With the canary voice.
Yeah. Is that what it is? So, I want to know.
So I think Jack is right. I think this whole thing started with there's a behind the scenes, people were talking about emergency. Other colleges had given up their dorms. I think the president of the UMass system saw this, was thinking about ditching that building the first chance he got when they built their new dorms out on East Campus or wherever. And I think he saw the opportunity to get out of a $25 million hole so he could begin his next process. Mm-hmm. My hunch is, if I were a betting man right now, I think, because the math kind of simple, right? If you think about it, $1.5 million of rent each month, and you can use it as a migrant shelter, 18 months. 18 times 1.5 is 27 million. There goes the 25 million debt, plus any interest you accrue over the 18 months, and voila. And Marty Meehan's got his hands clean. And
does the state do the maintenance and all that stuff?
Maintenance? Who needs maintenance?
Management.
What I'm hearing is that the state isn't offering anywhere near that amount.
Sure.
And hence the
you probably can't run it.
They're probably not coming. That's my best guess based on some relatively well-informed information. The problem is what the end game is here, and I never understood this even when saying that universities not going to give it to the migrant center, and then we're going to turn it over to Middlesex, and this wonderful plan is going to come out. Who comes up with the 25 million?
Not Middlesex.
Not Middlesex, right? They buy it for a buck, rehab it, whatever the case is. But somebody has to come in with some money to get the university out of that hole if the governor isn't going to do it. And I think there's a tug of war behind this. Why we haven't had an announcement is that there's a tug of war, whether is it going to be private developers with Middlesex? Is it going to be, I don't know, CTI wanted to buy a pretty big building. But aren't they downtown a few months ago, didn't they?
But some of that stuff is like state grant funded, I'm sure. Right?
So you just got me thinking of this. We're usually talking about this stuff in some way, but Marty took it up the wazoo to take the LaLasha. Like, he really wanted to stick it to the city in terms of the deferred maintenance and stuff, and get, when Eileen was talking about it, it was a real negative to move LaLasha. But then that all panned out. I think we ended up in the black, the city did, of $1 million, right? So that didn't just go, it's not like the deferred maintenance issue went away. Marty just owns it now. So now he's got to
the political manager did a better negotiating job than the professional one, right?
That's right. And so I don't.
Sorry, I can't help myself.
Well, no, Marty's. I'm not saying he's not professional, but he's also political, right? He's just been away from it. I think there was a term limit or something. So this cost to Marty to do this, and he's firmly focused on that East Campus development. Mm-hmm. And if we look at the stuff that Lowell plan I think we've talked about this before, the Lowell plan, there's a hotel looking to go over there. And it makes more sense for Marty to build a hotel somewhere closer to Lasher or Songus Arena, because then he can contain the experience of UMass Lowell. And, we've been, Corey Robinson was talking about Experience Lowell. Well, Marty knows to experience UMass Lowell, right? So he's trying to create kind of a wonderland for the experience of the parents and the students to sort of live over there, right? So you have the hotel there that gives conference space. You've got the Songus Arena. He wants that over there. He didn't call me and tell me this, but it makes perfect sense.
I'm not so sure he wants into the hotel business. I think he likes the dorm room business better.
They're already building a wall on Merrimack Street.
There's no
campus gates.
And then some will argue that Lowell isn't what it was back in the 90s and all that shit, right? But obviously, if you come from, whatever, Weston, maybe you don't know that, or if your kid is from somewhere in the Commonwealth, it's not the same city as it was 15 years ago. But when they're talking about rebuilding LaLasha, they're not talking about bringing the Athenian Corner or Espresso Pizza in there. They're talking about big franchises that are already connected to the Major League Baseball and all that shit.
If they put a Trader Joe's near there, I will be happy. I don't care.
Oh my God, we've been hearing that for 25 years.
I'll be so happy.
Trader Joe's ain't
But who gets stuck with the ICC?
Look, stuck, I don't know what the word is. There's personally, I think you gotta have some private developer come in there. But I know Marty's starting to catch a lot of heat as this drags on for, Marty being Marty. You hear this over and over again. I don't blame the guy. His job is to do what's best for the UMass system and UMass Lowell. His responsibility isn't Lowell. That's the responsibility of the city council, the city manager, and to some degree, the state delegation. Have they done their job properly? The council, the manager, and to some degree, the delegation.
I'm going to say yes, that they're each playing their own part, and it's not necessarily one big kumbaya.
Christ, we got to stop agreeing, Mitchell.
I think, the council came at it hard, and then I think the adults in the room, the delegation, tried to say, "Oh, we're not so gruff, right? Like, we're
not Ratty, Mom. Ratty jumped right into the water with the city council."
Does he make a difference?
No, but I'll tell you what. If they don't end up coming, his ballsy move of being the first one to jump in with none of this. Let's pretend the hotel is an economic development engine because nobody cared about that up until they decided they were going to put some different looking people in there. Suddenly it became an economic development engine.
I don't know. So you're trying
to
paint, like the Democrats as racist. Like,
Ratty,
you're not fooling
certain neighborhoods. Ratty at least jumped in and said, "No, we don't want them. We can't have them here."
You know what? Would it have been the worst idea though? Like if you think about the math, right? Just say they were like, all right, we're going to bring whoever in, whether it's asylum seekers and whatever you want to call them, for 24 months at 1.2, whatever, and then, it's 2 years of that, and they're like, yeah, we're going to get them out of there. Thing ends, and then you've got the building, the debt's paid off. Now the building's, it's going to need a renovation, but there's no debt on it. Would that be the worst? If you told me like in 2 years, you could have this building debt free, and it can go to Middlesex and they can do their thing, it'd be worth the 2 years.
It's the smart solution. Again, if you put yourself in Governor Healey's place, you're not going to say no to more migrants. She doesn't want to repeal the right to shelter law. She needs beds. She's got them.
I mean, I'd rather see it go to
and she still
already homeless, but I mean, it'd be nice if it was homeless families that were already here, but like, that's a whole other issue. But I mean, if you said like, we're going to do this for 2 years, if there was a beginning and end date, and you could wipe out the debt that way, that wouldn't be a bad compromise.
Do we believe in end dates?
Well,
I think it's a moving goalposts.
I agree, but if that was the case, that would be a good solution for everybody. But again, you're right. There's never. It's a moving.
I think you described exactly the scenario. My hunch is that the state doesn't want to give UMass Lowell that kind of money.
Well,
no, that's exactly it.
And then have to pay to run the hotel anyway.
But would it just be
the biggest, migrant housing complex in the country?
It's not real money, though.
The money should not stop at UMass Lowell either. If you're bringing more people into the city, there needs to be support services. You need better transportation, public transportation for these people.
Just give them all cars. They can get driver's licenses.
Well, there's school resources.
Then you're in the
there's
pocket
lots
issue.
of things that need to also be thought about. So the money doesn't just stop at here's UMass Lowell. And
there's a huge impact on the community.
Yeah,
there is.
You need to support that.
But I think would be great is imagine if all these discussions and debates were, I don't know, open.
It is taxpayer money we're talking about, right? Wouldn't it be nice if the taxpayers had a little info? Maybe the guys in the legislature who, the House and the Senate who fund things, maybe the Speaker and the Senate President are in these discussions,
I think there's a balance if you're making like these big decisions of like how many cooks is too many cooks in the kitchen. But I wouldn't be upset if you had some like public accountability and you made these discussions open discussions so we could actually hear the positions of
the decisions. These are the ideas. This is what's going on.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It's not going to happen.
No, never.
Again,
I'm agreeing with Mitchell. Christ almighty.
This never happens on a group text. What's going on? Am I in the twilight zone here?
He's actually making sense
This is
for
like,
once.
can you be more like this, like on the text message?
I tell him he's finally wised up, but he'll get mad. So I'm just going to tell him he's right.
I feel like a Jedi mind trick.
How does this end? I want to hear your predictions. I'm going to say that my original reporting comes out to be accurate. Batch, how does this saga end? Do the migrants come here for any period of time or not at all?
I see CTI buying that building at some point. That's how I think it ends. And then everybody loses. Not because the CTI, but just because it's going to be, I don't know. Does the Middlesex thing happen? I hope that's what happens, but all I know is that whatever happens, mine is going to end up not having that $25 million new, building around his neck anymore.
I hope not.
What happens, how that happens, I don't know, but I know that's probably the only thing I know for sure is that he will not own that building anymore.
And we just have to hope it doesn't become low-income housing.
Yeah.
Why not? Why?
Why?
What does that bring you?
How does this end, Mikaela?
I think it depends on like the other factors that we don't know about that are further up the pipeline. Like there might be other locations that a lot of the people are going to. There might be things that we don't know about, you know.
They need to probably find 4 more locations if they don't use that one.
There's probably things that we don't. I don't know. I don't know.
All right, Jack.
I think that if migrants move into the ICC, that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that we're not going to know anything about, because I think there's going to be, it's everything's transactional. So
Which leprechaun gets the pot of gold?
well, Marty gets the gold, but
Okay.
I don't know if
The only thing we all agree on.
I don't know if the economic development forces can shut up Scott Plath, Michael Gallagher, Nancy Donahue. Like, I don't know what it takes to shut them up, shut Tom Golden and the city council up. But there's a dollar figure, all right? Everybody's for sale, right? They're not doing it they're doing it to position themselves for some sort of payoff. Not a personal payoff. I'm not talking about corruption. I often do. I'm talking about something that will better the city. So if they're gonna,
Or the university.
in a way, those are the same things. But I think those are two competing interests, right? Like
Depends. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not.
all right. I think if anything happens that, people will fly off the handle over there, like immigrants coming in. I actually agree with you. I think a migrant welcoming center is actually a good business model that could work, because ICC,
like the Chelmsford Rest area?
no, professionally run.
Oh, they get to stay
Professionally
for a while.
run, because the International
I love that
Institute,
idea.
right? They're not doing good at their job. All right. What I saw with the Afghan refugees coming in is trying to jam them into available space in the rental markets, right? Mm-hmm. And with that came giving them pots and pans and silverware and beds and all that shit, right? And trying to connect them to healthcare, trying to connect them to language teaching, right? If you dedicated that ICC to do a migrant welcoming center, you could have everything piled up very neatly in one location.
Like a one-stop
right?
shop.
And then, so I agree with that model, and I think there would be jobs associated to that. I think there would be good transition from the migrants into the workforce. Now, what would the throughput rate would from the day any person came in to the time they would leave what is now the ICC, and then be integrated into the grander culture? I don't know, but you're always harping that migrants should have sponsors. Well, just let that be the sponsor, so to speak.
Did I say that? Are you talking about what I was talking about?
No, Teddy always says that.
No, but are you talking about what I was talking about, settlement houses? Is that what you mean?
No, you said something about what could happen over at the ICC with bringing migrants in and sort of operating them.
Oh, like for a 2-year thing. Yeah.
Yeah, 2-year thing.
Yeah, as long as there's an end date.
Yeah,
Meaning after 2 years, it's not a migrant anything anymore.
Well, I'm expanding on that.
Okay.
Like, just take it and just make it a migrant welcoming center in perpetuity, but not the same people get to live there for 10 years. They've got a timeline where they need to cycle out and go back, get them into the workforce, get them acclimated to our culture. But I one more point before we change subjects. In terms of emergency and filling up our whatever empty beds there are, whether they're private beds or public beds or shelter beds, the winter is coming. All right. And we can stuff all the hotels with people from Haiti or people from Venezuela, right? But at some point, winter protocol hits. Where are the people that live on the streets gonna go? Because those people end up in hotel rooms. And the hotels won't give a shit because they're getting paid by Maura Healey to take care of Haitians or Venezuelans or people from Mars, wherever they come from. The homeless people, they're going to be left, not a funny pun, out in the cold. So unless we figure out a way, all right, crazy ideas like building sheltering inside the vacant garages, all right, because that's all there is. But somebody better start thinking about winter protocol and being ready for the people that cycle in when the cold weather comes.
So you're saying there's nowhere for them to go because the hotels are all full already?
That's a major problem right now. There are homeless families now who are not getting priority because the migrants are getting priority through this whole process. They kind of a special, classification. They don't have to jump through all the hoops that the homeless people already do. Homeless mothers.
So that gets back to Batch's idea of CTI taking over.
Well, I wasn't hoping that would happen.
I don't think Batch was rooting
that's
for that.
not what I was saying. I mean, my preference is that it becomes the Middlesex thing is kind of like, to me, the best idea. We've got a combination of some dorms, some hotel rooms, and all that. I mean,
and maybe some housing on the upper floors.
Yeah, for the viability. Yeah, for the viability of downtown, I think that's best. But if it took you 2 years of doing something else to get there, fine. I mean, the other thing too, like, if you were just going to do it for the winter, there's a shit ton of room for modular, like temporary modular housing out at Collie. You could fill that whole lot. You could, though.
You have to go. And they also have nice new grass down there on South Common.
Yeah.
Why didn't they take the football goalposts out of South Common when they put the new grass down? When was the last time a football game was played there?
I don't know.
At Collie?
No, at South Common.
They had the goalposts were still up?
The goalpost is still there. Like, who plays football there? Soccer, I can see it, but
like regular full.
Yes, like real
touchdown.
Yeah, no, I mean
the field goals and the extra points.
Well, they got rid of those at Gage years ago. They just have the ones for soccer now.
Exactly. So, but they left them there. Anyway, all right. To be continued on the Innan Conference Center. Hopefully not much longer because, as Jack said, the cold weather is coming.
I will say one thing. One point I was thinking about when you said that, Marty Meehan has to have the UMass interests and, the duties of
that's his responsibility. That's what he gets paid for.
I do fine. But part of me does think that he has to also be thinking of Lowell. He has to have in his heart Lowell as a city and what things will do for the city. Taking that into account when he makes decisions also. I feel like he has to.
I think he does. As Batch kind of said, there are cases where the interests are the same. Jack said it as well. Right. But there are interests like Lalatcher Park, cases like Lalatcher Park, where there needs to be a little bit of a battle.
Tear it down.
That was good. That was good for the city. I mean, that was.
So I thought the city did as well as could be expected there, because usually, Marty has them over a barrel.
That's what I would say. Hey, Marty, if you want to do this and do that, and then you can get rid of Lalasha. Just build whatever you want over there.
He's not getting rid of Lalasha.
The thing's falling apart.
D1, it's all about D1.
Yes.
That would not be a bad thing.
D1.
Well,
that would be a good thing for the city too.
But you only need 5,000 stands, I think, of a room for. I forget what the D1 threshold is, but
there's a lot of standards as well, though. I think also availability of it.
But I can see them downsizing Lalasha and maybe building something over there, like that whole.
That would be a shame.
Well, it would be, but there's one side of that whole complex, I think, that's basically fallen down. It's really not. It really is. You go, there's a big ass crack in the thing. I think it's part of it probably is on the verge of being unrepairable. So I could see them downsizing it and building something maybe on the street side. But
why don't you do podcasts with drag Ed Kennedy in here, drag Marty Meehan in here? They used to go on your radio.
I've reached out to them. Ed Kennedy will come in. Senator Kennedy will come in at any point.
You said a drag.
But Marty,
that's a great idea. That'd be great for the dating show.
Every time I run into Marty Meehan at something, Marty come on in. He's kind of like a Martha Gregory in that way. I'll do it. Shoot me a note. I shoot.
Yeah, but it's tough for them to really. It's tough for them to say anything, though. I mean, they've got.
I get it.
Yeah.
But it's been 2.5 months. It's time to resolve this, and that's kind of why I started with stop the buses, stop the press.
What?
It's time to stop the bullshit. Look, the city of Lowell, as you said, there are things that need to be dealt with, and this is kind of hanging over the entire
Standard.
city. It's also, you've lost revenue for a month. The university's taken a hit, right?
The standard should not be things always happening behind closed doors for prolonged amounts of time that no one really has a say in. And if they do get a say in, it's too late. This decision has already been made, and it's kind of a fake say.
Yeah, what would be wrong?
That
Like,
should
hey,
not
this
be the
is,
standard.
yeah, like this is what we're kicking around. I mean, I think people would.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to happen, but it'd be nice.
It would be, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
By the way, happy Inside Lowell anniversary.
Yes, October
What?
24th, the 1-year anniversary of Inside Lowell.
I think
That
this
is
is.
today.
We
So I think we did our-
launched the website.
We did our practice one a year ago.
Yeah,
like
we
a day or
recorded
two.
before the actual launch, so that we had a podcast on.
It has been a
on the
year?
website. It has been
That
1
got
year.
deleted, right?
No, that's still there. That I believe that is the most viewed.
No, the
podcast.
Practice.
The practice one.
That-
The practice
You
one. No, no.
deleted that. You said you deleted that. As
I think so. I'll have to check the computer.
Oh my God, I'm getting deja vu. That's so crazy. A year.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yep. Anyway, lots happened in that year. Lots going to keep happening. Let's shift
Great
gears.
job, by the
Good
way.
job.
Thank you guys. You guys made it all.
It's a
happen.
real asset having local coverage of things that matter.
And I
like it.
don't think I've cost you any sponsors, have I?
Nope.
Good.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Year two though. It could be the year. There was a big
I don't get the nice Danielle introduction of my podcasts though.
Well, I can show you how to do it.
No, it's all
It's a
right.
pain in the butt. There was
I don't want to be censored again.
There was some other big political news, election news from the city of Lowell. Dropped a little over a week ago. That was that we're going to be looking for a new register of deeds, technically for Middlesex County, but that seat is currently being held by a Lowell resident, Dick Howe Jr. And he has announced that he's going to retire at the end of his term, which expires, was it January 5th, 2025, or?
inaugural day.
Yeah, so there's an election next November. We already have our first declared candidate, Karen Casella, who ran last time unenrolled against Dick Howe in the general election. She's going to run as a Democratic candidate in the Democratic primary this time. A lot of other names being rumored out there. Was it a coincidence that the ADU vote and Dick's announcement and the flip-flop of the positions on the ADU. Am I the only one who thinks that there might not be a coincidence and some of that stuff might have been connected?
Oh, it's all connected.
Whoa, really? Like how?
Want to spell it out, Jack?
Yeah.
I mean, when you run for election, you need friends, right? And what you don't need if you don't have friends are people that are neutral. But what you don't want are people that are looking to just step on your neck. So it makes a lot of sense that people that tuck tail on the ADU thing are looking forward.
Yeah, flip flop for Belvedere
To
votes.
be reelected into city
Not just
council.
Belvedere, high propensity.
Yeah, that's
older
true.
voters.
That's true.
Pawtucketville, I'm sure, there's certain neighborhoods like downtown, there's no ADUs going up in downtown. But
I think Pawtuckeville would have been okay with them. I think it was the Highlands and Belvedere that didn't want them.
So to answer your question, Mikaela, it wasn't about the city council election. It's because we had reported the coming change of votes on the Friday. Dick Howe Jr. announced his retirement, and then on Tuesday the ADU vote was taken. I'm gonna guess by the time I reported on the fact that the votes were changing, that the people who changed their vote had already started thinking about future political office. And one of the folks who did so, Vesna Noon, is a rumored person. The political bubble, Jack, is that saying that Vesna Noon would like to be Register of Deeds.
he's close to Dick Howe. I mean,
Yep.
What are the
way-
qualifications to be a register of deeds?
Get more votes than
get
anyone
more
else in the
votes than
race.
anybody else.
Yeah, but isn't it like not that being a city councilor is not a real job. It's a real job. But isn't register of deeds city council, you're representing people. It makes sense that it's an elected position. But register of deeds is like full-time job.
We had a register of deeds that was robbing quarters out of copying machines. Not just taking copying machines, but taking the quarters out of the
Was that the one before Dick?
Bonomo? No, down in the south.
Oh.
Was it Bonomo?
Oh, is that a registry? Oh, I forgot about that.
So your question is what's the skills? I think it's a management skill. Like Dick Howe is an attorney, right? He was also a military officer. I think he obviously politically savvy, growing up the son of Dick Howe Sr., right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he just had a certain vision that made him an excellent register of deeds.
Sure.
And
Okay.
by all accounts, like I generally, I'm not 100% with Dick at this point, but like I think he's very qualified, and I think he took.
Don't say it.
I was gonna say strictly Dickly.
Don't say it.
Oh, then I'm not 100% with Dick.
Strictly Dickly.
All right, yeah. So, anyways, I think it's a job that if you go in there with the right, look, are you
can see the
15
wheels
fucking years
spinning.
old or what?
Yeah.
All right,
So
Okay, that answers
you
my
can
question.
learn
my
it. I think
question.
Casella, she's gonna make the claim that she's been in the close to the seat, right? She's been sat at the right hand of God.
she predates Dick Howe. She started with Ed Early, who I found out was the previous registrar.
Yeah.
I did not remember that.
But if you go back, and I think when Dick wrote a blog about when he resigned, he told his sort of story,
Yeah.
and the people that ran for Register of Deeds, right? So it's not about having any pre-qualification, because there's a lot of staff people, but there's vision. So like I know one thing, Dick sort of made electronics, right? Like there was a lot of stuff that he did to evolve that.
Modernize that office.
Right, that's right.
Turn it into a 21st century office.
Wait,
And
you can look a lot of stuff up too.
Yeah.
People. Mass
And it was smart.
Masslandrecords.com.
Smartly in the statement that I asked Karen Casella for a statement, and she gave me. She pointed that out. Like I was part of that whole process and modernizing.
She's going to try to.
She's going to piggyback onto that.
Which,
success.
by the way, I mean, I look at it like this: like when you look at, there are some jobs in government where, they're important places, right? And I'm not saying this about anybody specifically, but like, let's say it's like like a job place or like a whatever, and like you get people in there that don't necessarily, they might be politically corrected, but are connected, but they have a big staff of this and that, but like. You need people that know what the hell they're doing, right? And so I don't know Vesna's background. I don't know who else is running, but when it comes down to it, I think there's a lot of real people who actually use the registry of deeds for things, real estate transactions, this and that.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have somebody in there that knows the actual job than just somebody that's really politically connected. I mean, to me, it's not really a great place for just an appointed, like an elected person.
But that's more common than maybe you'd be comfortable with. There's a
I don't care if
whole
it's
level
common. I'd
of-
rather have that. Like, it's just like you talk about, you'd rather, like back in 2012, you guys would have preferred to have somebody with management, a professional manager versus a politician. I feel the same way about the registry of deeds. I'd rather have a
You're a
person,
professional manager in the registry of deeds. So Bernie Lynch, you want Bernie to run for?
registry of deeds.
registry of
No, but like, I think somebody that's been in that office is going to know how to do that office. It's not even a political office. Like, it shouldn't be. It should be
I agree.
like, it shouldn't be one of these,
You should just interview for it.
it should be it should be.
So my question is like, is there any advantage to going from city councilor to register of deeds?
Yeah, your
during the
pension
low-
goes up.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
It's a higher paying job. Your pension goes up, and there's
So
low
this is my
visibility.
problem.
But doesn't Vesna have?
Well,
a
no,
paid job?
because earlier you were saying people should have aspiration, or was that was
That was in the previous podcast.
that was in the previous podcast. So
But
never
like,
mind.
this is where I have a problem with the whole
Mona,
like,
Mikaela, it starts with them.
it starts with M and ends with A. It's almost the same.
Ooh,
yeah.
there we go.
it's the same.
Same name.
But anyway, it's this like advantage to tenure that kind of motivates people to kind of like shift into these other positions that they may not otherwise want. I mean, I don't know, maybe Vesna's passion is being register of deeds, maybe, but like I would, what I'm trying to say, the continuation of benefits or whatever it is as a motivator. Maybe maybe not instill the
Casella
best
has the
people.
same motivation. Like I'm sure her salary as the registrar will be a very decent bump from what she collects right
Yeah,
now.
but if you've been there for 30 years, maybe
so
you're
she-
like, I think I've been here long enough that I could do this job because I've seen the job being done. I know how this job's done. I know how to improve things. And I think I would rather have the internal person doing that than bringing somebody that's never even been in the building. I don't know if that's true or not, but like people that maybe haven't spent much time in the building, they're going to walk in and all of a sudden, what do they bring to that? I'd have a continuation of the efforts that have been going on if you have somebody internal.
I can't argue that point really. It's a reasonable assuming all the best of that individual, right, and not knowing her.
I don't know her politics. I don't know anything other than like she was there before in a couple of casual meetings. That's it.
So
it's
regardless of the individuals, right? Like somebody coming from up inside, but it's also, I was going to make an argument about like how the governor appoints who runs DCAM, let's say, right?
What's that?
The Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, right? They
Yeah,
run all
that shouldn't
state
be an
buildings.
appointed job either.
Well, that's how it is. Whether you agree with it or not, that's how it is. But it does make sense for those department heads that might like have, they're not in a cabinet, but like the Secretary of Veterans Affairs or the Secretary of Education. They are supposed to share the vision of the executive. The Register of Deeds is not like, I'm actually having my own arguments on my head while you guys were talking, right? Because that's not the same, because then the register isn't in, there's no
Not a vision.
They
Yeah.
work for the Secretary of State, which is its own constitutional office,
Yeah.
elected separately from the executive. So, but I don't think, they don't run thinking like, well, what does the Secretary of State want me to do?
It's not
They
like you're
run
part
on-
of a team. You're
Right.
kind
They're
of
not
like
appointed
under
by
a-
the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
They run their own separate election.
Yeah.
So they will have to express some sort of vision. You know, like I've been there in the shadows, you know, like for the last 30 years. If it can't articulate past that, then it'll be a jump ball. But if you can say like I have operational expertise and spell it out, you see, I'm giving advice, right? Like, am I not giving
There you
advice
go.
right now?
Yeah, free advice. From
Can you be
Jack
a city
Mitchell.
councilor and a register of deeds at the same time?
Nope.
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Why not?
Oh no! I'm sorry.
you could,
Yes,
theoretically.
you can't go from being the Register of Deeds to becoming a city manager. It's expressly prohibited by our charter.
What?
You need a waiver to become the city manager if you are in the Register of Deeds.
How can you do two?
Why is
well,
that?
I don't know.
That's
Makes no
bizarre.
sense,
Oh,
right?
yeah, because you can go from the
It's like they
state
wanted
senate,
to
you can go
prohibit
from the
someone
state rep.
specifically.
It's like
Yeah.
they wanted to
Holy smokes.
specifically prohibit something.
So, because that's a name. You and I talked about that when the news came that, who's going to be the next city
Oh,
manager.
I wonder when that came into play. We got to look that up.
Batch thinks, it's going to be David Nangle, but you and I talk about, is it Rodney Elliott? Is it Ed Kennedy? Is it Dick Howe? That's another name. You're saying that he can't be unless he gets a special waiver?
No, well, that's if
In
the
office.
TIPA vacates in the next,
How long does he have to
14
wait?
months. I don't think there's a cooling off period.
There's no cooling off period either?
No, it's not. The cooling off is more of like a conflict of interest sort of thing. I work as a governing body to oversee this vendor, right? You sell airplanes, I buy airplanes.
You
I can't
can't
go
be
work
doing
for them
both.
because now I know
Yeah.
the inside scoop. There's not anything like
I mean,
that.
that
So I
does
don't
happen
think
in
that-
politics.
I don't think
the
that
time.
there's a cooling off
Well,
period.
and Dick was kind of an anomaly in that he didn't hold like a bunch of offices before he got in there. Now the last guy, Early, who from everything I've heard, it seems like they got a garage named after him, so he must have been big on parking. But like
Where's going to be the Howe? Where are they going to put the Howe garage?
it's gonna be, I don't know.
Got the Howe Bridge, the Howe Junior Garage.
There could be a couple other things they could do, but a walking path would be great. But that'd be a nice thing if you were going to do something. But
You could extend
I think a lot of I think you can see that a lot of registers of deeds have been in other political offices. Dick was kind of a anomaly, and I think it worked. I think we should continue that. I mean, he was from a political family, but I don't think he was elected. I don't think he had like a background in. He wasn't a state rep. He wasn't a whatever. I think one of the reasons he did a good job is he wasn't so political, right? Like he wasn't just a elected guy that
He's
said a bunch
also
of words.
wired. I mean, if you ever sat down and talked to the guy, like the way he's wired,
True.
he's very cut and dry. Dry would be. That guy is pretty cut and dry.
I think an internal candidate would probably be better qualified.
So I was thinking about it. It's kind of presumptuous of Lowell to think, we're going to get to control this seat, right? Because like if you get enough Lowellians in the race, it opens the door for somebody else. But then it
Should I
started
announce my
thinking-
candidacy from
Well,
North Chelmsford?
So I started thinking about the Democratic primary field, and let's disqualify all Republicans because there's no chance there. But so 1994, the primary that Dick Howe won by the tiniest of margins, Walter Flynn, Buddy Flynn, Lowell, Dick Howe Jr., Lowell, Edward Kennedy,
This is for register.
now
of
the
deeds.
Senator Kennedy, Patty Kerwin-Kilby, Lowell, Now, ironically, the chief of staff for Senator Kennedy, Dennis McHugh, who I believe was Lowell, right?
I don't remember him.
Dennis Scannell, David Shaughnessy,
Oh, wow.
the police officer, all Lowell. The two Tewksbury candidates,
This is a hot position,
both
obviously.
very strong Lowell ties, Fred Simon and Karen Theodoris.
Jesus.
So I mean, it's like nobody from Cambridge or whatever falls into Middlesex County wants to be ready. Why do just Lowellian?
Wait, wasn't
or
Kennedy
people connected to Lowell want to be?
Wait, wasn't
Register of Deeds?
Kennedy in charge of the Middlesex County at that time?
Was he county commissioner? At the
Yeah.
time?
In '94?
Oh, they had already
I don't know.
gone bankrupt,
What
right?
kind of like interview? Are there interview questions or debates that we have
No.
with these people? Like,
Hell no.
Like, here's an interview.
We haven't had a competitive
I mean,
election.
there could be.
really.
There should be. You should have one here of like, what's your
I'd love
vision?
to.
What is your vision? A good interview question.
No, you should just
What's
have them
your
log
vision
on and see if
for-
they can navigate the website.
Yeah, search me a property. Search it.
Yeah, if you can't do that, you're out.
Find me this property and find the deed for this property.
You got 4 minutes to hand
I
me
know.
a printed
It's all right.
deed. Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
That would
Claim
actually-
deed.
That would actually.
Go.
Honestly, that'd be great.
So when in asking Karen Catella, because she's the only declared candidate so far, although I will say I reached out to Vesna Noon that morning as well. So any comment on this?
There should be.
Your room adjourned. She talked about one of the changes she'd instituted. She tried to create other hours, and she talked about it in 2018, like have weekend hours for people who work during the week, but because it's in the courthouse can't be open on weekends. So she talked about can she go to satellite locations? But here's something I learned: you can't pay by credit card at the Registry of Deeds.
Yeah, because
Are
you can't.
you?
In
Joking.
2023, you cannot pay. And she says you'd be amazed how many people come into the office.
Wait, so how do you pay?
With a credit card or a check, and we tell them they have to.
You
go
can't pay with a check.
No, I'm saying you can't pay. You can pay cash and check, but people don't come in with them. They come with a credit card. And they have to send them to an ATM.
Could you
can't.
Venmo them?
I cannot. That's insane.
So it's yeah. Why
You
why no
can't pay.
credit
Can you
card
pay in the
payments?
city with a credit card?
Yes, now you can.
Now you can.
There's a
You can do-
fee,
you
but
can even
pay
do
your
the-
taxes with a credit
You
card.
can even do the what do you call it? The DMV with your debit.
No, but if
or
you go
credit card.
physically to downtown City Hall and try to pay with a credit card,
Yes.
do they take it?
Yes.
Okay.
So you read off the list of candidates, right? But what year was that?
1994. Last time it was
1994.
open.
Okay, so that
Well, no, it's been
was
open other times.
30 years ago.
Yeah, Dick Howe won that election.
that
He's
was
been the
30
register ever
years.
since.
Right,
Yes.
So the political sort of ecosystem is different, right? There's a lot-
Cambridge wasn't in Middlesex County in '94, right?
Well, no. There's a North and a South Registry of Deeds.
No, it was
okay.
still
Yeah, it's
it was still north and south.
right?
I got you.
All right, but like there was a lot of hackery, good old boy, like some of the worst of politics, right? And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist because I think you were talking about some of the stuff that had happened just recently, but it's not like it used to be. You know, this idea of waiting your turn and it'll get passed, and I don't mean Casella per se, but like has Vasna waited his turn? Has anybody, like, is it now their turn to be the Register of Deeds, right? I don't think that sort of thing is going to have as much sway with the bubble as it used to. It could be a jump ball, and I think because of the experience and, you know, saying I have operational knowledge of it, and who else would? Because it's not like there's a lot of someone that ran the DMV going to come over and say, I used to do
That actually, if they did, that wouldn't be bad. That'd be transferable skills. If the head of the DMV was like, "Hey, I would be interested in that," I'd be like, "Oh,
How much
that's,
staff do you manage as a Register of Deeds? Like, what's this?
Good question.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of people working the coin thing, the coin slot, collecting cash. There's a lot of tellers over there.
Let me just take 1 minute to be my typical jerky self, because Jack and I have gotten along too well. 2 consecutive podcasts, over 2 hours of blabbing right now, and we haven't really fought. So I'm just gonna bring this up. This is from Dick Howe Jr. Substack, where he announced it, and he goes back to election night. Unofficial election results compiled today by The Sun from the 10 regional communities show Howe beating fellow Lowell lawyer Karen Theodoris by 52 votes. Theodoris, however, said her results showed her winning by 2 votes.
What was that?
Results compiled by Howe's camp at 11 p.m. showed him winning by 8 votes. So at 11 o'clock on election night, his numbers show him winning by 8. Her numbers show her winning by 2. Now, I had somebody tell me that there was a ballot box. They found somewhere along the way, on the way to a recount,
A mouse.
they found a ballot box, so which contained like 30 some odd votes or whatever.
What do you mean they found a ballot box?
And this person who was telling me this story was saying it, question was saying, yeah, Howe's father was the mayor of Lowell at the time, and
He would do that. That guy had a lot of honor.
And they found these mysterious ballots in the Irish strongholds. And I started laughing because this person's like a staunch Democrat and anti-Trumper. I'm saying, so you're saying that it's really easy to fix an election with mysterious ballots? I get the wave off, but
Is that why they stormed the Registry of Deeds back in '94? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, on inauguration.
Don't forget January 8th, 1995.
Insurrectionists.
I just want to look. Fuck you.
They came,
But
they came with spears.
Look, you just want to be careful.
The
all right,
skewers,
when you're
that's
trying to undermine certain types of institutions, because that's exactly what Putin wants you to do, whether you know it or not. All right. But again, a real world story.
He's our technical director on this podcast, by the way.
Well, you can read the shit yourself, but you won't believe it because it didn't come off of fucking some right-wing wingnut.
Breitbart.com
Yeah.
or something.
What do we call it? Cuckoonutnut.com or something, right? Okay. But real world, okay. WCAP had sent some folks over to Pawtuckaville in 2021 with the first election, right?
Yeah, there was a
that person. Yeah. And what the story I heard, having talked to people that were actually in the polling location, was that person went in and stirred up shit and got in people's faces and agitated things, right? And
No, I don't believe that.
what was heard was a lot of the volunteers are of advanced age.
Yeah.
Okay. And that there was a question about where is this thing, because it was usually in a spot and it's behind the rope, so to speak. It's not like it's floating around in public, and it wasn't where they thought. So there was something was overheard that was taken way out of context. But I think the individual wanted to blow it out of context because breaking news, stop the presses, pay attention to me, and WCAP. All right.
I wonder who you could be talking.
I can't think of anybody. Can you?
That said, I went as a volunteer. Oh, for the what election? The state election. Didn't I go down to the CAP to check things out? Right. Okay. And I got numbers and stuff like that. Right. The people that were working, two important volunteers, resigned from working the polling location because of that episode.
That's too bad.
And that cost not money, but it hurt the operation of that polling location because two people were like, I'm not putting up with bullshit like that. So it's funny, haha, right? But like there's real consequences that can come, and not consequences like someone's bleeding or someone went bankrupt, but the city was harmed by that escapade of 2021. We have, the poor people I think they did a great job from what I saw.
Did they find it?
All right. It wasn't missing.
Yeah,
it was one person didn't know.
There was a broken pipe, so they had to shut it, the counter.
I was going to say,
they pulled that suitcase out from under the
was it a little school? Was it behind the wet dry back?
I can't believe that if it happened at a little school. All right, one more.
I know they didn't hide it in the air conditioning.
one more topic of discussion here, and we're gonna lift the veil off of our secret conversations, because, and this is the question I'm gonna throw out there: should we even be talking about anybody except Mikaela even be talking about Lowell politics?
Oh, because you got
we've left our hometown. Jack is in Haverhill, Batch is in No-Show, and I'm in Chelmsford.
I think you should all go around and say why you don't live in Lowell. I'd like to know.
That's easy. I got really cheap rent and an ADU on a lake in North Chelmsford. That's it.
Okay, I accept that.
I got a great value in a house and an ADU in Chelmsford Center.
Yeah.
Okay.
My wife works at Tewksbury State Hospital. We had to live within 30 minutes of where she worked. We looked at probably 70 houses. You know that whole thing, right? We put in offers on 10 houses, 2 of them in Lowell, 1 on Varnum and 1 over by Shed Park, right? No one would take our money because we weren't offering $100,000 over asking price. The 11th offer was in Haverhill. We offered $80,000 over asking price, and they took our money.
Haverhill's considered 20 minutes
Alright.
within.
So
30 minutes. It's
30 minutes.
from Sookster, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said 20. I was
So
like,
the people in Lowell knew who was buying the house. The people in Haverhill had no idea who was moving into the neighborhood.
I don't regret it.
You're a good neighbor.
We actually ended up with it's awesome. It's not the best structure that we saw, but definitely the best
yeah.
sort of
Surrounding.
environment and stuff like
I mean,
that.
the only reason, so the other place, I used to live in Nashua. The only reason we lived in Nashua was at the time when I was married. But the only reason we bought up there was that we couldn't afford Lowell. And then the only other time I lived out of Lowell was the same reason I got a deal on it. It was the same apartment, but it was a
So you found cheaper and
nice. Yeah, it was, I could live somewhere like nicer or whatever for the money outside of Lowell.
So is it all right if we talk about Lowell politics? Because I have heard that a couple of times, especially after
I'm
my
not gonna-
ADU.
No, what
article.
my criticism was, and I'll just tear the scab off, was Lowell is a lot like a backwater place where people never leave Lowell. It's in West Virginia, you would be fucking hillbillies, okay? And you have all these worldly views of shit that you don't know anything about. You particularly love to talk about what
I would
you know.
tread lightly what
All
you're
right.
saying, because I'm starting to get offended.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
Whatever.
never left
So-
Lowell. I left.
I left for a
I
long
was
That's
drinking
like,
and
what are we,
bouncing.
rubes or something? I went to college and studied philosophy or whatever. Like, I don't know. You don't have broader worldly visions. I'm not trying to paint myself, but my own experiences. I lived overseas for a year.
I lived in Thailand for a year.
Did you?
I lived in Hawaii.
Well,
for
I don't-
6
Oh, well, I guess we can just shut up then.
I've lived lots of places.
Okay,
I lived
I
in
think-
Boston for
I
like
think
4
that's-
years. Like
Right. But Teddy likes to talk about his businesses, right? Like his business acumen. He inherited basically a business.
So if I went,
I do not brag about being a restaurateur. I'm the worst restaurateur on the planet.
You
I will
constantly
admit that.
talk about,
I'm a hell of a meeting.
you're like, what do they know? Did they ever make payroll? Right?
That's
a phrase.
There's
You
something
didn't
to be said
invent
for that.
Like I've heard that
it's
before,
very
right?
difficult to be a business owner. Like
Yeah.
it's a really
Lowell
difficult.
suffers from a lot of insulation, right? There's a very big sense of big fish in a little pond, all right? Everybody thinks that whatever, fuck it, Steve Giatakis is the greatest thing since fucking sliced bread, right? The reason why when you see that guy in a very small room, he's a very big man. But you know what? You're not in the room where he's just an average guy. You only
what
are
the fuck are
in
you
the
talking
room.
about?
But
So
he was like, wasn't he the head of like Ways and Means?
No, let him say what the fuck are you talking about?
So you're saying that
That's
if I
a pretty
lived,
big.
so if I
position
grew up,
in
let's follow this through from what you're saying because
Yeah.
it's asinine. If I grew up,
I think
if I grew
you're-
up in Wellesley,
Yeah.
and then I moved to, let's say, I don't know, I moved to London for a year, or even better yet, let's say I moved to a small town in Ireland for a year, and then I came back. That I have a more worldly view than growing up in Lowell, surrounded by tons of people from everywhere. Because I haven't lived anywhere in another country for a year, I don't have a worldly view than some rich kid that lived in a small town in Ireland for a year.
It's an amalgamation of experiences. All
So
right?
you're discounting anybody that hasn't, like you, lived a year wherever you lived for a year. Nobody else, that makes your opinion higher than everybody else's.
No, it's not.
I'd say that you I don't know, you grew up in North Reading, right?
Right.
So you grew up with around a lot of white people.
Yeah.
I had my upbringing
Lowell
growing
does.
here and being
Yeah.
around the people that I have, I think I have a much better understanding of different cultures than you probably did. Except for wherever you went for a year.
Right.
Weren't you in the military when you were living overseas? Is that really living? You were like kind of working, serving. Like were you?
No, I moved from one mother to a very strict mother, right? Like that's what the military is, a very strict mother.
Right,
You don't have to
but
worry
I'm
about-
saying that experience, and I'm not discounting it by the way,
That's
but
fine.
it's still like a incubated thing. I think you can have opinions of the world. A lot of the opinions of the world I get are from talking to people from all over the world. Like I've talked to people that I don't know living, especially living in Lowell. Like you get to talk to people from everywhere and hear their experiences firsthand.
All right.
More so than if you lived in some country, like if you lived in Switzerland for a year,
Yep.
you're probably not going to really hear much about what it was like growing up
Well, it's also like socioeconomic conditions too.
Yeah.
If I grow up in a place that, is not necessarily all white, but is very same socioeconomically, like I'm not going to have my eyes open to struggles of real people and like everyday people. I'm going to be totally insulated from that. So I think Lowell is.
Yeah, but not. Like I know a lot about the Greek community. I've talked to people who've lived in other countries, Cambodians, Greeks, everybody from south of the U.S. down, pretty much. I mean, it's kind of belittling to say because you didn't live somewhere for a year or
I think
whatever.
what you were saying was not coming off as the way that you were.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think it was.
All I'm trying to do is get you to look sort of at the condition, right? Lowell is very insulated. You would argue that Lowell has kind of an us versus them mindset.
I think there's some in Lowell that have that, but I think a lot of the Lowell people have been other places.
Parochialism, right? Like this is the way we do it here. How many times have you heard we don't want to be Cambridge?
Are you just talking about
the
politics?
bubble? The bubble is insulated because they want to try to figure out how to pass the goods around.
It's not. But you're generalizing Lowell. I think there's groups that are very insular. There are groups that are very.
Can we make a distinction here, though? Like, are you just talking about like politically connected people in Lowell, or are you talking about like anyone that grows up in Lowell as a whole?
You can't say that. As a culture, the bubble is very insulated, and it.
What do you mean when you say the bubble?
The political bubble.
Okay, so you're talking about the.
We're part of it.
So
we are part of the political bubble.
Okay, so I think this is a
Doing this
major
podcast,
differentiating factor to make because you're talking about a political bubble, and I think Batch is taking it as anyone who grew up in Lowell is a very insulated, like not a worldly view, blah blah blah. So I think there's two specific. Your bubble is a subset of everyone growing up in Lowell and calling Lowell home.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
Great.
Big fish in a little pond. We don't want to be Cambridge. All these things, these buzz phrases that you've heard, right, that are protecting those with theirs. I had a conversation not too long ago with an individual that was saying like that had grown up basically as a kid in Lowell, but wasn't from one of the majority ethnicities, right? And how that person got along with everybody, friends, everything was great. But when it came time to know something about whether the list was coming out for the police force, no one talked to that person. There were certain secrets because you had to be on the inside.
Right, but that's just one.
Ask Teddy if you found out. Did the Irish boys tell you that the firefighters were looking for people or the police officers were working?
Yeah, but you can talk to one person. That's just experiential bias right there. You talk to one person that had a bad experience.
I mean, you'd find that anyway.
I think what Jack is getting to is all of Lowell. If I can take slogans from the last decade of campaigns, all of Lowell versus from Lowell for Lowell. And I think one of the problems I have is, are a lot of Lowellians very insular? Do they like take care of their own? Do they protect what they have? Yes. But I think one of the things that they fight back against is people who come from, dare I say, outside. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. But they come in here, they have no understanding of the city. And I think we're going back a little bit to the beginning, the early days of Left in Lowell.
Yeah.
People who didn't know the city and immediately looked at all the faults, saw them, and wanted to change.
I totally admit.
And that's like, we're like, well, wait a minute, I think that was the pushback to Left in Lowell.
Yeah.
It was because what happens with a lot of these folks, they come in with political aspirations. And then they go. The second the poop hits the fan, or they meet any kind of resistance, they just pack up and leave because they really don't care about Lowell.
Not that they really don't
I think
care, but they're not met. There's no door open for them when they come here because.
Well, maybe not a drive-through window is what they're looking for. They want quick success, and they're not willing to invest and slog it out because you change.
Remember the Harry Cortacare guy that ran for city council? Didn't he run twice?
He ran somewhere else, and then he ran for like. Is he still in Lowell? Does he?
But he was from Somerville, and he had a lot of good ideas.
He was a great. I tell you what, he had a lot of business acumen. But he's a perfect example, and I like the guy. But where'd he go? Did he get involved after he lost his election? Did he get involved in this community? Did he care? Did he hop on a board?
I thought he
And
ran.
serve.
I thought he ran 2 years in a
Did
row.
he?
They're not.
Is he still even living in the city?
I mean, there are a lot of I'm trying to think. I can't think. Of course, I can't think of everything off the top of my head, but I know that there are some politicians, some councilors, school, whatever, that didn't grow up in Lowell that are in office or big in the community. It's not all, you know.
You don't have to be in.
No, there are people that are, and I think the people that are most successful in Lowell embrace some of the new people that come in, whether they're by new, I mean like not ethnically or whatever, like people from other communities or whatever. Like there are, I think there is some people are insular, some people are parochial, but I don't think it's like 80% or whatever. I think there's a balance, more of a balance.
It's better than I think it used to be. I think I always felt that sort of because of I came into the Lowell and the Mills to Martini's sort of realm, right? Is that we were sort of invited to come in and buy in and contribute to the economic development by paying our taxes. But we were supposed to keep our mouths
Wait your
shut.
turn. We wanted your money, but we also wanted you to wait your turn
That's right.
politically.
I think a lot of that's. I think with this district representation, though, I think a lot of that's going to go away. I mean, you got to remember too. Like, I think for a long time, even if you were from Lowell, living in Lowell, some of that bubble was neighborhood based too, or economic based. Like, I think there are parts of the city like where if you weren't from Belvedere or depending on what time you're looking at, Upper Highlands or or Belvedere, if you were from other parts of the city, it was hard for you to get a foothold.
Well, there's a nepotism line, and there's a
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, right? It was if you weren't Greek, you weren't getting a job in the school committee. I mean, it was the Greek mafia back in the day.
It seemed that way.
It seemed that way, and it really wasn't. But there's, I think there's perception and then there's reality.
There was ethnic neighborhoods. I mean, I bought a house that was owned by the Mozinskis. Lower Centerville was like a Polish neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. Pawtuckaville was French Canadian. There was the Acre, there's Irish. And I've heard stories told about you go into a certain neighborhood and you get beat up because you're not from that neighborhood, right? Like,
I never experienced that.
Well, maybe you were, I don't know.
You were buying everyone alcohol because you looked old. And young.
That is true. There is some truth to that.
As a swarthy Mediterranean, maybe they just felt.
Yeah.
Listen, I just think this, and when you were talking about that, we were talking about world issues, and you were throwing that in. I'm like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap it all up by going back to the last thing Batch wanted to hit it, and this kind of ties it in. So the belief was that Belvedere was dead, right? Everybody flexed their muscles and brag. The district representation changed Belvedere. You can sometimes visibly see the frustration on John Leahy's face on the council floor. And people thought, well, that's it. They did lose their control because they can't control council votes anymore. They can't control a district council.
How many calls must they be getting about the DPW not plowing the driveways?
And we completely discounted the fact of ambition. That even some district councilors or even some at-large ones not from Belvedere have higher political ambition. And you need those votes. So
how important is coming in fourth now in the general election?
So for those who thought old Lowell was dead,
are you talking about that ADU letter?
The ADU
that
battle
was
and the letter.
Interesting letter to read.
But think of that letter, right? That letter sparked.
Did they print
so
that
much.
on like?
Do we have
bright
a copy
red?
of it? Because I don't think I ever even read it.
I have a copy of it.
InsideLowell published it.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
The death of
We publish everything.
single.
That was like.
It was super fear mongering. It was.
Yeah, it was 2
pretty
seconds short of like grab your pitchforks and take to the
I have
street.
to say though, I was like, damn, that's a good letter. I mean, if you really wanted to just
I did not like that letter.
No, I mean, in terms of like its effectiveness, I was like, wow, that's a really effective letter. If I was kind of mildly paying attention, and that came to my door, and I was living in the gated community of Belvedere, I would have shit my pants too. I mean, it was a great.
I wonder how many people that either wrote that letter or supported that letter have that sign on their lawn that says "Accept everybody, we love everyone."
Do we believe the people? Because I found this hard to believe. I think they just kept quiet hoping that they could win until they needed to mobilize. Just like the high school debate.
By the way, I heard Melange Kate at the meeting.
Do we really believe that the neighborhood that decides Lowell elections and has for decades now wasn't aware of the ADU issue? Do we really believe that?
No, of course
They kept it. Jack called this perfect. They kept their powder dry until they knew it was time to go into battle.
But now,
I believe that they weren't aware of like the state now being able to come in and.
I know it is kind of.
Why even waste your ammunition on something like that?
Because hey, look,
Is that a flex?
They can get They can get the most powerful woman in Massachusetts to not use the most obvious choice for an emergency shelter. Why can't they get
Because she'll say,
enough votes?
"Oh yeah,
to...
everyone in the state has to do ADUs except Lowell. They don't have to do it." That's not gonna happen.
Listen, there's NIMBYs in every town. Right.
Well, John Drinkwater,
there's pushback to ADUs in a lot of communities. Why do you think certain communities have, 1 acre or 2 acre lot requirements?
Well, or septic tanks or whatever.
Yeah.
Drinks political capital went way down.
Yeah, he forgot to run this by the cabal before he ran it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think.
He's awesome. That sucks.
Well, he's a good. I think he's a good guy.
He's a nice guy.
Smart guy.
But
he played these cards hugely, and I don't know, like
it shouldn't be cards. Just stand up for what you believe in, and that's it. It should not be cards.
I'll tell you what, though. Now that this definitely ties in with the register thing, because now, if Vesna goes for that, and in a year he's going to go for that seat, and he's been the biggest vote getter in Lowell and all that. If he wins, then obviously whoever came in fourth in the general election gets bumped up, so that position becomes, pretty interesting now.
I didn't even think of that component. That would be fun.
Yeah,
actually
people are going to be high-fiving whoever comes in fourth.
Just the rental.
if it's Corey Belanger, do you think Vesna will vacate? If it's Bobby, he will.
I think no matter who it is, I think he'll. It sounds like I believe it or not, I don't talk to Vesna that much. I think no matter what happens, it sounds like that's what he's gunning for, and I wouldn't be surprised.
It's good that we have lots of good candidates. That's what I'll say.
So I found the letter. Meeting notice. Lowell ADU ordinance. The death of single-family zoning. Now we get to regular time.
That's
that was
insane.
bold and much larger.
You got to give them credit, though. That's effective.
Like, is that a real thing? Like,
yeah.
This ordinance affects you and your home. Do you want your neighborhood converted to rentable 2-family houses?
oh God.
Attend to learn about the proposed ADU ordinance and how it could, and now we go back to bold, transform your neighborhood by allowing conversion of single-family houses to 2-family houses.
What I don't understand, though, is...
That's insane.
But I understand
That is insane.
there were two things I didn't understand. The images that came with it. One was of Michael Dukakis wearing a helmet and a tank, and the other one was Willie Horton. So I'm not really sure what the whole point was.
I mean,
Too soon.
Too soon. All right, we're about an hour, 27 minutes in. I think it's time to call it a night.
All
I
right.
just want to say, I think you did your diligence with the ICC story.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You had chances to take shots at me and you punted on it. What's the matter with you?
No, because I think, look,
I trust you more than the governor. I'll tell you that. I mean,
but true.
yeah. I mean, who's more likely to tell us the truth, right?
the people that
No,
go
I
into these
think there's a
smoke-filled rooms and they talk to
No,
a
I
very small group, all right, they leave the rooms and they want to reflect on what they thought they heard or saw. They then have a kitchen cabinet, okay? They talk to a few people. So like the Breck girls, that story leaks out.
Wait, let me write all this down because I'm just a rube that never lived out of the country.
You're like a dog with a bone. You're not letting that
I think
one
you
go,
need
are you?
to scroll it on your tablet.
Let me just-
Put a banjo or something.
Can you just write that in pictures for me so I can read it later?
But you did. I think you've done due diligence here. You're getting people come to you. All right, they know that you're an influencer. They're trying to tell you.
Did I get paid for that?
They'll say it's the
Certainly
truth,
not
but
social media.
They're either trying to spin you or whatever, right? Like you only have so much information to work with, right? And you learn to sort of trust others more. I mean, I feel I was hearing things, you were hearing things. We all hear things, right? Based on, who knows what, but you don't necessarily know if they're telling you the truth. So you kind of balance it out. The whole thing with the Middlesex Community College involvement. We were talking about that a little bit before, and we were kind of keeping it quiet because there wasn't really any way to just chuck it out there without.
You were the first person to actually throw that out, to me anyway.
And then I kept my mouth shut until I saw it on a thread where Ray Weicker and Scott Plath were having a conversation about, wouldn't it be great? Well, once it was out in the light, so to speak, that's when, we were in the podcast. I'm like, okay. And I could actually say like, oh, I picked it up off the Facebook page, right? Like, but it was, sometimes you're hearing things and you're not talking about it, not because I want to help it or I want to destroy it. It's just like, there's a responsibility that you
Like
have
the
to
governor.
exercise.
So you're being like the governor,
Well-
not sharing all the information.
And just because people are nosy or people want to have that, they don't really need to know what happens to that city or that building is going to affect what happens to Lowell.
Don't you think
Who
the governor
decides
could have
who's on
known?
the need to know? That's what I'm saying. Everyone has a problem with the governor withholding information, and it's like there is a responsibility that comes with that office.
But see, if I was this whoever the little twit was that you talked to, I would have just no commented, like just not said anything. I think that by them issuing that thing was a bad move. You know what I mean? Like they could have just let it lie, and then.
No, they did let lie when I reported on August 8th that they were negotiating with with UML. They let it go. Maybe they didn't see it, but it took UMass Lowell parents starting to publish things on social media.
Right.
That, hey, they told my kid he's not going to the Indian Conference Center after all.
The lid was off.
Then the lid came off, and some guy chimed in on a Facebook post, said, yeah, but I work for UML. I refurbished the flooded out dorm because they were moving the kids in there. And that's when Councilor Corey Robinson, took that to the council floor and started the whole shitstorm. So at that point, they had to acknowledge it. They had no choice.
Well, I'll tell you what.
But that's why I think it's important to keep putting this stuff out there and hold their feet to fire. Because if you don't say it, then they'll just pretend it doesn't exist.
But this is what happens, and I think part of what Batch is saying, if he means it directly or not, you never know with the rubes.
Those crappy rooms.
The rubes who've never left their hometown.
The statement by the governor says that there are discussions, right? Or conversations or whatever, pending, ongoing.
Yeah, just
Well, then
validates
the
what-
next question logically becomes, if you give even a remote rat's ass about this, who is the governor talking to?
Right.
And
That's
so
why
then people that are have effect and have a yay or nay, ask the city manager. They ask the people they know. Are they talking to you? Are they talking to you? Who's the governor talking to? And when the answer comes back, no one's talked to us for a while.
So, and that's the question. And I will tell you, I have asked the city manager. I text him probably every other day. What do you know? And he says nothing. He says, not that he says nothing. He tells me, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
He'll tell me, he'll say, the last time I talked to the lieutenant governor, she said, no decisions made. He gave me absolutely nothing on this story. And when he tells me, I don't know, I believe him. I'll tell you, I kind of believe Julie Chen when she tells me, I don't know.
This is like an episode of
But her
Goodfellas.
job is not, in a way, her job is to run an academic institution, real estate deals and stuff. It's not that she doesn't have it, she's not advised of that, but I think that's not really her purview.
It was when Marty was there.
If I had to guess, if it was her
That's
call,
what he wanted it to be.
if I had to guess and say if it was her call, I'd say she probably would have been, just get him in. That's why she got the students out of there. She figured they were coming, and she would have been fine with it. She told me, she goes, we'll do what we have to do. When the governor, she said that sitting in that chair right there.
She has no choice.
When the governor asks you for something, you try to help. And she's basically saying it's their building anyway, so I'm not going to stand in the way of it. So she got the students out of there, so she doesn't have to move them. And now would have been October 24th. And she still wouldn't have had to move them. But that's,
So maybe that's what happened.
I'm okay that I'm getting the sense that she was okay with it, but I don't think she's necessarily in that. Maybe
It doesn't matter if she's okay or
so maybe
not.
there are discussions that are happening with Julie Chen and Tom Golden and other people, and then I think there are discussions going on at a higher level at the UMass club. in Boston and with the real high-end stuff, right?
What's the Sun said about this?
Hey, listen, just moved across my Twitter screen. They just reported the Dick Howe Jr. story.
Oh, there you go. Wait, I got one.
I'm not kidding.
Wait, I do have one bone to pick with them. The person, one of the largest employers in the city, right, is Community Teamwork, and they had a whole article where they mislabeled the executive director. Like,
Wait, what?
Karen Fitzgibbons.
Wait,
yeah.
are you serious?
Yeah, like, and I thought it was just once, but it was like, and I to get past the paywall just to check, it was like every time. Like, how do you screw up her
So
name?
look, I've done that. You get in a mindset sometimes.
Really?
You're like, hey, you got this wrong, so I just hop on. I can change it quick.
I mean, I make fun of that, but like, she's been here for 30 years. Like, how do you not know who the hell? Like, how do you screw that one up? That's pretty bad.
Stop picking on this.
And it's not just one person; it's the person that reviews the article.
Well, that's the same person.
Listen, when you've got like a year and a half, maybe at the most, of covering a city like Lowell, it's tough to get up to speed. We've never left.
You know what? It's probably a more worldly person that came in.
Yeah,
and,
I'll tell you that the hardest working person in local media is Melanie Gilbert, and she's working with basically cub reporters constantly.
Well,
She tries to be nice. I'll give her.
She's a really nice person.
She understands.
I agree with absolutely nothing she writes, but she's a really nice.
She understands all the cultures of Lowell because she lived in Iceland for 6 months.
All right. On that note, we really are wrapping up this podcast before we piss anybody else off. Jack Mitchell, Mikaela Hondros-McCarthy, Mike Bacigalupo, Batch, the Pod Squad. Thank you for being here, gang.
All right.
All right. And thank all of you for joining us as well. Reminder, election night, Tuesday, November 7th, special broadcast. 7 p.m. We'll be talking live on our YouTube channel and on InsideLowell.com. And at 8 o'clock, when the polls close, we'll bring you the results. We'll bring them to you fast. We'll bring them to you first here on Inside Lowell. Till next time on the podcast, stay safe, everybody.